Welcome to the Effortless English Show with the world's #1 English teacher, AJ Hogue, where AJ's more than 40 million students worldwide finally learn English once and for all, without the boring textbooks, classrooms, and grammar drills. Here's AJ with a quick piece to help you learn to speak fluent English effortlessly.
I'm AJ Hogue, the author of Effortless English, Learn to Speak English Like a Native. Father of the Effortless English System, I train you, I teach you, I help you. You speak English fluently, you speak English powerfully, you speak English confidently, you speak English effortlessly when you join my VIP program at effortlessenglishclub.com. Go to effortlessenglishclub.com, commit, don't quit at effortlessenglishclub.com. Okay, we're talking about voluntary simplicity today. Voluntary simplicity. First, a note. Some of you have mentioned that there seem to be a couple problems with our courses website, technical problems, and you are correct. We are having a couple technical problems. We'll get it fixed. Let's see, what's today? We should have it fixed by Monday. Maybe tonight, but we'll see. But anyway, we're working on it. We are aware, we know about the problems, and nothing serious, just a few small things. So if you're getting any little error messages or any problems trying to get your VIP lessons or anything like that, no worries. We'll have it. We will fix it in a day or two. Okay, let's talk about the topic first, and we're live on YouTube as usual. Voluntary simplicity. This is a phrase, obviously, with two words, voluntary and simplicity, and both words are important. Simplicity, you may understand or know. Some people say minimalism is another way to say it. Minimalism, minimal, meaning the, small amount. Simplicity is more of the more common word, probably. Simplicity, right? Which is the opposite of complex. And then there's voluntary. Voluntary, meaning you choose it, right? It's no force. No one's forcing you to do it. It's not bad luck. Nothing like that. It's something you choose. Voluntary. Okay, so voluntary simplicity, what does it mean? It means you choose, you decide, you choose a simple life. You choose simplicity instead of complexity. You choose to have less instead of more. Now, what are we talking about? Well, this is very general, because really this is a kind of a big underlying principle. We had that phrase yesterday. This is kind of an underlying principle, a general principle that we can use in much of our lives, in many different areas. So, for example, with our book club, Your Money or Your Life, in the area of money, in the area of finances and spending, they encourage voluntary simplicity, which you probably already can see this idea, right? Which means what? Spending less money, spending less, living a simpler life. Instead of living in a big, huge house, live in a smaller house. Instead of having a big or expensive new car, buy an older, cheaper, used car, or no car at all. So this is the idea. So you can do this financially, but it's also just something you can do, even like, let's say, food, voluntary simplicity. What would that mean? It would mean that instead of eating huge amounts of food or going crazy buying, all kinds of different foods, that you learn to enjoy simple foods. And at the heart of this idea of voluntary simplicity is the idea of quality, focusing on quality instead of quantity, right? Quality, meaning the experience of something. It's not connected to amount, right? So if we're talking about food, the quality of food is how good it tastes, right? The taste of it, how good it tastes, maybe how healthy it is, how fresh it is, how well it is cooked or made or prepared, how well it is grown, if if it's coming from a farm. All of these things are qualities, right? But that's not connected. Quantity would be the amount, right? Just eating, trying to get the maximum amount, the biggest number of calories, the largest size. It's kind of the American way of thinking, quantity. So the idea is with voluntary simplicity, it's not just, it's important because as we talk about it, we'll see in the book club and when I talk about this topic in general, people have sometimes almost fear about it, because they're afraid that if I live more simply, if I spend less money, then my life quality will go down. This is what people have, this wrong idea. Because unfortunately they think they have a wrong idea because they think that quantity, they think amount equals happiness, equals satisfaction, right? They think that, oh, well, having the biggest possible house will give me the most satisfaction for living, right? Or the most expensive house, right? So if you're super rich, then you should have a giant mansion, right? Huge, and maybe more than one. Maybe you can have, we hear about movie stars and rich people that have 5 houses, 8 houses, 10 houses around the world, and they're all super big and expensive. And so we're programmed by the media, really, with this idea of quantity, amount, that's what gives us satisfaction or happiness. And so then, of course, if you have that idea, if you have that belief, then of course you will think, well, if I spend less, if I have less, if I buy less, if I keep less, then I'll have less satisfaction and less happiness, right? That's kind of the quantity mindset. So this is why people react. This is why we're getting some kind of fearful reactions during our book club. Some of the comments, people really worried about, like reducing their spending and, but spending money brings me happiness and gives me happiness. And you can kind of feel the fear from some of the comments that if they spend less money, they'll be less happy, less satisfied. But it's not the case. That is not the idea of voluntary simplicity. In fact, it's the exact opposite. The idea, the principle, the philosophy of voluntary simplicity is that you will get more satisfaction and more happiness from simplicity. That by reducing the amount, why does that give you better satisfaction? Why does that give you better happiness? Because you reduce the amount, but you increase the quality, right? Less, but better quality will actually give you a much better life. So we can see this in food. I think it's fairly obvious if you look at food, right? Because if you focus on quantity, if you focus on amount, well, then what? You will go to, like in America, they have all you can eat buffet, right? You go to a restaurant, you pay one price and all you can eat. You can sit there and eat as much as you can. Sometimes they have a time limit, sometimes they don't. So you can just eat, and some people do, right? But the quality of the food is not good. It's low quality food. Why? Because the restaurant needs to make money. They can't give you expensive food because if you're eating huge amounts for a small price, well, then obviously the quality has to be lower, right? So they put a lot of sugar and fat and salt in the food to try to make it taste better, but it's low quality, meaning it's unhealthy food. It's not healthy food. It's not healthy. So again, in the short term, maybe the sugary stuff tastes good and the salty stuff tastes good, but in the long term, it will make you fat and unhealthy and unhappy therefore. And even the quality of the taste, you might say, it kind of tastes good, but it's not the same as a very, 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 very nice meal prepared by a professional chef or something, like really high quality, right? So you can see that it's not just the amount. If you have this idea of amount, just quantity, large amounts, we can see that with food, it does not equal better, right? That in fact, eating less, but much, much better food, more fresher, right? More fresh, better cooked in a better way, using healthier ingredients, better nutrition, more deep taste, not just salt and sugar, but like prepared and made in a very nice way with excellent ingredients. That you might eat less, you might eat a smaller amount, but the quality, right? The taste, the experience of eating it, if you slow down, if you focus, if you notice, it will be much, 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 much better. So less amount, but actually much better enjoyment, higher quality. So the idea of voluntary simplicity is to have this same mindset, this same attitude in all different areas of your life. Right? So again, like instead of, let's say, the area of coffee, if you like coffee. So instead of drinking 10 coffees a day, you drink 1 or 2, but maybe you spend a little more for those 2, and maybe you don't spend more. Maybe you don't spend more. Maybe you buy some really nice coffee beans and you make it at home. So it's still cheaper than Starbucks. It's still cheaper than going out, but the quality is much, 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 much higher. You've reduced the expense. You've reduced the amount, right? You're spending less money, more simplicity. You maybe even reduce the number of cups you're drinking, but the quality has gone up. Right? And you can do this in, basically all areas of your life. Even like something like working out. Like today, I did a little workout today. And my workout is free. I don't go to a gym. I don't have a gym membership. I used to. But actually, I'd say now my workouts are easier. And easier meaning easier to do. I don't have to go to a gym and waste a lot of time. They're shorter, I should say. Not easier. They're shorter. But the quality is just as good. And they're free. And what do? I do rucking. I backpack. I walk around with heavy weight on my back. Babies. 2 babies. 2 babies. Almost 20 kilos I'm carrying. And I walk for 1 to 2 hours. So that's a good general all-body workout. And mostly, like slow burn cardio workout. And then I do pull-ups, which I do in the playground, just at a park. Just do pull-ups, usually with the baby, while I have the baby, so they're more difficult. And I have a couple kettlebells that I do some overhead presses, I do some push-ups, and I have a sandbag outside my apartment, and I'll do some deadlifts with the sandbag. All of those, so I had to buy the kettlebell and I had to buy the sandbag one time. They were not expensive. Everything else is free. So I'd say my workouts, in terms of the fitness benefit, are just as good, maybe better, than going to the gym. But now it's all free. And it also takes much less time because I don't have to go to the gym and change my clothes, and I just do it all at home. At least the strength stuff I do at home. And I like walking anyway. So it's just, it's simpler. But better. The quality is better. But I spend almost no money on it at all. 0 money. And it's just very simple too. Not only money more simple, but it's more simple just in terms of time, right? Like the kettlebells are right behind me on the floor. I don't have to go to a gym and change and go to the shower and go to the locker room and waste all that time and then go and then wait for a machine or wait for where I want to lift weights and then lift the weights and then take a shower at the end and then change my clothes again and then go home. Instead, I just turn around and there's my kettlebell and I just do the weights. I drop onto the floor. I do push-ups. I go out the door, my front door, and I lift the sandbag. That's it. Right? Simple for time, simple for money, good quality. And so, and even with our English learning, instead of all the complicated grammar rules and trying to remember all of that stuff. We just listen and read, listen and read, listen and read, listen and read. And eventually we start speaking. And that's it. Really, it's pretty simple. It's not always easy. Sometimes it's difficult, but it's not complicated. It's very, very, very simple. And yet the quality is better. You get better results doing that. Much better results. In school, they make English learning very complicated. You have hundreds of grammar rules to study and memorize. You have tests to take. You have vocabulary lists to try to memorize. You have all these activities in the textbook and exercises and workbooks and all of this stuff. It's quite complicated and yet not effective. It doesn't work. The quality is low, but it's complicated. Everest English is actually quite simple, but the quality is very, very high. So it's just a mindset, okay? This is the mindset I want you to have as we continue into your money or your life, and just in many, I think, areas of life, is that simplicity is not deprivation. They're different. Deprivation means you don't have enough. The verb is deprive. If you deprive someone, it means they need something, but you don't give it to them, right? Like they need money and you give them nothing. So now they're deprived, right? They're starving. But that's not simplicity. Simplicity is not deprivation. You have enough. Just as the book says, your money or your life. You have enough, but not too much. You don't need too much, right? Enough. And enough, and then you focus on quality, 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 and you really, really learn to enjoy all these amazing, simple things in your life. So that the quality increases. The quality of your life, the quality of your satisfaction, the quality of your happiness, all increase as your life becomes more simple. It's the same with homeschooling. When you homeschool your children, you don't need complicated systems. Some people use them. It's your choice. But you don't need to. It's reading, writing, and arithmetic. Reading, writing, and basic math. That's it, really. Those three. And those are the major skills academically your children need. You just teach those three. So very, very simple, but much more effective, much more powerful than all the complicated stuff, all the different subjects, all the topics, all the tests, all the nonsense in schools. Homeschooling is much more powerful, but can be so much simpler. And also time. Homeschooling, you only need maybe 3 hours a day with your children. Maybe 3 hours a day, something like that. In school, what are they in school? 6 hours a day, at least. So there we go. Simplicity is not deprivation. I'm going to put it up here on the screen. I have read that book is the name of the profile commenting, and they wrote it out for us. Simplicity is not deprivation. Well said. Yes, it's different. It's not poverty. Simplicity is not poverty. Simplicity is not deprivation. Monks live simple lives. Monks, right? Monks, M-O-N-K. Monks and nuns both live simple lives in all different religions, but they're not deprived and they're not impoverished. All right, let's go to our questions and comments. Let's just get to our discussion. Yeah, like Namal says, I hate grammar rules. Our teachers are so focused on tests that they can't think widely about anything. This is one of the problems, the testing, all the craziness about testing, it corrupts the students and it corrupts the teachers. Because instead of focusing on real life performance, they focus on what can we test. It's hard to test real life performance in some ways, right? Like you say, fluency. You want to be fluent in English. How do you test that exactly? On a paper test. It's hard. It's not easy. They tried to do it with TOEFL and TOEIC, but even then, those tests are not great. They're not perfect. Many times they're not very accurate. They're not very good. But in schools, they don't even test your speaking at all. They're just testing what? It's just you're taking written tests. So then it becomes just what do they do? They can only test grammar and vocabulary, really, and some reading possibly. So they're not testing your fluency at all. At all. But because they need these tests, why do they need tests? Because they have to do grading. Because it's part of their system. They have to give you an A or a B or a C every 3 or 4 months, every semester. They have to give you a grade, which is also ridiculous, that you have to be measured constantly like this. All that measuring distracts you from just enjoying the language, enjoying English, just reading and listening and letting the improvement happen. Let it happen. It just creates a huge amount of stress. And then the students become corrupted. Because the students, instead of focusing on really learning, the students stop caring about learning. They stop caring about knowledge. They stop caring about skill and performance, real world, and they only care about some stupid grade, A, B, C, D, F. That's all they care about, grade point average. So they will do anything to get the A or the B or whatever. And they don't even ask. They don't even think, am I really learning anything? Is this really useful? Right? They don't really care about learning English. They don't really care about learning Spanish. They don't really care about learning math. They just care about A, B, C, D, F. And so it destroys the natural learning process, corrupts it completely. Sarah says, if you're single, you can choose the simple life. Indeed. If you have children and family, you can't because of them. Well, you certainly with children, you can. You're the boss. You are the boss. Now, when you're married, you have to negotiate. To negotiate with your husband or wife. The children, you just tell them. You just do it. Yeah, like Vladislav is mentioning about the time that school eats up. When I was at school, I spent 5.5 hours for classes. Then I had to do homework. Some subjects I didn't understand, so I had to memorize. It took me all day. After that, I wasn't confident. Yes, what a huge waste of time. All that. And a lot of unnecessary stress that makes learning miserable. Yeah, well, like this is another, case. Adil says, during studying in English school, I was a good student, but I wasn't good in the exams. Yeah, right. Well, there's so many examples of this. Language learning, especially, we see this all the time, where the grades are not connected to real skill. Not connected at all. Zero connection. So, in other words, the grades are meaningless. They are meaningless bullshit. I can, from my own life, I can tell you. I took Spanish in high school and then a little in college. And I got A's. All A's. A's, A's, A's. So what that should mean I'm really good at Spanish, right? It should mean that. But no. At the end of that, I could not speak any Spanish. Not just speak, I couldn't understand it. My listening ability was basically zero, almost zero. My speaking ability was basically zero. My reading ability was not zero, but not good. But, I could take grammar tests. I was really good at taking grammar tests at that time. Of course, now I've forgotten it all. But so what is it measuring, really? What are those grades? What were the A's, my grades in Spanish? What did they measure? They certainly did not measure my Spanish ability. That's for sure. They were not measuring my real world Spanish ability, because I was not at all. So what was that A? What do the grades actually measure? They measure your ability to memorize and then repeat on a test. That's all. To memorize something short term, and then take a test and repeat it back, write it on the test again. Make the teacher happy. That's all. That's what a grade is in school. That's what it's actually measuring. Your ability to copy the teacher or copy a textbook. That's it. That's all that an A means. So if you have straight A's, does it mean you're really good at something? Not at all. Does it mean you're creative? Definitely not. Yeah, it's kind of sad, really, when you think about it. Hey, this is cool. Patricia, Simone, I want to some nice news from Sao Paulo, Brazil, just to say thank you, because due to your blessed help, I can find a new job in aviation after big turbulence. I like it. In my last job. God bless your life and your lovely family. Well, Patricia, congratulations to you. Nicely done. Good luck in your next job. I'm laughing because turbulence is a word that's used in aviation a lot. What's your, Ahmad says, what's your opinion about education system in Japan? The same as education systems everywhere else. Sucks. They all are bad. Yeah, like Ahmad Salim says, self-learning is the future. Change your mind and take it seriously. Yes, take responsibility for your own learning. You don't need a school. You don't need someone to tell you what to do. And if you need some help at some subjects, if you need some help like a coach or someone to explain something, well, online you can find your own. Right? Just you're listening to me. You're getting help from me in English. But I'm not your boss. I don't tell you what to do. Right? You can do anything you want. If you want to be lazy today, you can be lazy. If you want to study, I tell you, studying grammar rules is useless, but you can do it if you want to. You're the boss still, so it's still your choice. I don't give you a grade. I can't punish you in any way. You're the boss. That's what's wonderful about independent learning. You can find your own tutors and teachers. You can find your own books. You can find your own way, and you can change it when you want to, and you can even customize. You can do it in your own way and a little bit different than everybody else. Yeah, like LC2 says, and this is exactly right. Real learning usually happens outside the classroom. I would say always. What's happening in the classroom is not learning. People don't learn in classrooms. They learn in the world, right? Scientists learn in the laboratory, and with language you're learning at home, and yeah. I bought Power English course a few years ago. Can I buy it again? Is it the same or different? You don't need to buy it again. Just send an email and we'll get you the files. You just buy it one time. You since you bought it already, just if you can just send us your name, your email, your information, we'll give you the files again if you need them because you already paid. You don't need to pay 2 times. Okay, let's see. What do I think about call centers, Mr. Yusuf? What is the level of English required? What do I think about them? I don't know. I've never worked in one. Seems like it might be a high-stress job. What is the level of English required? Probably quite high. You probably need, ideally, if you're calling English-speaking people, then you probably need to be good at English. But I'm not really an expert in that area. I don't know. Actually, I did have one job. It was the shortest job of my life. I'll tell the story another day. It's one of the strangest jobs I've ever had. I worked in a call center, but we were selling graves for dead people. But I only worked like 4 hours and then I quit. I hated it. Yeah, like Ali says, when I was at school, one of our teachers was so relentless. If any one of my friends made a sound with a pen, he'd lose the pen temporarily, and then he'd give retribution, get punished. Yeah, I know, right? It's just a power trip. We say power trip. There's a nice idiom for you. Power trip. Power trip is when someone has a little power, like a teacher, and they enjoy the power so much that they use it in a bad way, right? A lot of teachers have power trips where they're like, they're punishing the kids all the time because they kind of like that power. Sometimes you have a job, you have a boss like this, right? The boss, someone gets promoted, they become a manager, and then they become like a dictator, right? In this little job they have because they've got this power over people. It's just, You don't need that stuff. Certainly, once you're like a teenager, once you're older, you don't need someone telling you what to do. You don't need someone telling you when to sit down, when to listen, when to study, when to go to the bathroom, when you can eat. It's just, that's for little children. It's even for little children. If you teach your children, they can handle all that. By 7 years old, they can handle all of that by themselves. With the younger kids, you do need to direct them a little more, but in a strong but kind way. But that's not what schools do. Like Emmanuel's asking, is there still hope to be thrifty? Some folks want always the newest gadgets. And they're fixated on it a lot. Well, yeah, this is the marketing, right? Somehow they convince you that the new iPhone is different than the last iPhone, when really, is there a difference? The iPhones all seem the same to me. I had one of the early ones, like one of the first iPhones, and I had a lot of problems with it. Anyway, I don't have an iPhone now, but the point is that when I look at new iPhones, like brand new, so this is many years later, it's been 6-7 years, more 8 years, something like that, maybe longer. They don't do anything else. There's nothing new. The camera's nicer. Yeah, so what? They're smaller and thinner. But the basic functions are still exactly the same. Nothing has really changed. Since Steve Jobs died, Apple really just makes the same exact products again and again and again. They make them a little thinner or a little lighter or something, but it's just the same thing. So what a waste of money to keep buying the new version. It doesn't do anything new. It doesn't do anything different. I don't get it. I don't understand. And most technology is like that now. There's really not much that's new. Little small improvements, but the price is usually quite big. But that's the power of marketing. It's their marketing power that convinces people to get it. They make you excited. It's the same thing that Hollywood does. They make you excited about a bad movie, but they create so much marketing and advertising. And remember, the fake news, they're working with these companies too, right? So the news will do stories about people waiting in line for the new iPhone. Why? Well, the news is trying to help sell the iPhone. It seems so exciting. It must be so good because people are waiting in line for 2 days to get it. Wow. So the news is also trying to sell it. And the news does this with big movies too. The Avengers, ooh, And so it's in the news, it's all the marketing, it's the advertising, and they create all this excitement, but then the actual product or the actual movie is not that good, or it's nothing special. Nothing special. Right? But they make a huge amount of money doing this. It's a big media machine. They have they can still create a huge amount of marketing, and it does work on a lot of people. Will you be teaching your babies at home? Yes, Jose, I will. Definitely. Vladislav, okay. I don't recommend doing this, but it's a funny story. Vladislav says, once at school, I tried to get rid of my history teacher. She asked too much and gave us tests. This is called a prank. I wrote an insulting letter to the police from her, so signed her name. Funny. Nothing happened, I guess, but it's kind of funny. Yeah, funny. Yeah, like Sarah says, I'm a chemistry teacher in technical institutes. The students don't come for learning. They just come to take exams and pass. They don't enjoy learning. Right. Because, Sarah, by the time, they're coming to you already, the high schools and middle schools have destroyed their learning enjoyment. It's quite difficult then at that level because they're already so bored and tired of it all. They just care about those grades. Yeah, like Abdullahi Osman says, I decided to live simply after you reminded me that they, the media, forced us to forget. They programmed us to live in strange, complex, costly styles of life. Yeah, that's well said. That's right. We can see that, so many people, religious leaders, saints, even many great scientists and teachers and learners lived simple lives. Philosophers, writers. There are a lot of examples from life where people had very interesting lives and very, very powerful lives and seemed to have had very, very happy lives, but they lived very simply. Josh, good luck to you. Josh wants to be a UN. It says, I speak 3 languages. Plan on adding Russian, and I will be at a conference interpreter at the UN. Impressive. You should make your own YouTube channel. What's the difference between school method and a prison? Asked Alaman Ali. Not much. Prison for kids. Nothing serious happened. Vladislav says nothing happened. Yeah, but kind of funny. Yeah, right. So here's another example. Hanani Karkor. My sister lives in America. She had the opportunity to work in a bank office, but she refused. She told me she is happy. She enjoys working where she is now, in spite of the smaller salary. Indeed, happiness is more important than that number, that money number. Much more important. Adil AJ, do you do any sport activities? Not really now. I do physical activity. Like I said, I walk around, I backpack around with the babies, and I do some basic calisthenics, strength exercises. Not actually sports at the moment. I play golf occasionally, but I mean like once a year. Just don't have the time at the moment to do that. Yeah, like, Adderley says, A simple life is the key for freedom. It is. It opens up so much freedom. That's why it will make you happier. That's why you'll be happier. You'll have more freedom. You'll have more time to enjoy the quality in your life. Oh, AJ, you always say commit. I don't understand the meaning of the word. Okay. Commit means to use all your effort. It means you make a decision to do something, and you decide, I will do this, and you decide that you will not quit. That's why I say commit, don't quit. It's kind of the opposite of quitting. Committing to commit is not exactly, but it's kind of close to the opposite of quitting. Instead of quitting, you commit. You decide you will never quit. I will not quit, right? Like with your English learning. If you commit to learning English, you decide, I will learn English no matter what. Definitely, 100%, I will learn English. I will not quit. I will not stop until I succeed. I commit. That's what it means. It's a strong decision to do something. Lisa says, many people don't simplify their lives because they are very comfortable. It's more convenient to buy fast food instead of shopping and cooking, or turn on gas heating than to cut wood for heating. Indeed, there can be, for one, it can just be habit, like what you're describing. And there's kind of a short term versus long term, right? We've seen this in many of our discussions where often something that seems good or comfortable or pleasant or nice in the short term right now, we learn that later it has a big price. Later it actually brings unhappiness. And the opposite is true, that sometimes something that right now, starting in the short term, in the moment, feels difficult or uncomfortable, later brings us a lot of happiness. Exercise is a perfect example. If you're tired and lazy, well then today if you exercise, probably it will be uncomfortable, it might be a little painful, it might not be very fun. Short term. But when you continue to do it, long term, after 2 months or 3 months or 6 months, you're going to feel great. Higher energy, better mood, feeling happier, everything better. Right? So it's a lot of these things in life that we have to look at short and long term. And the really good stuff brings us happiness in the long term that lasts for a long time, not just for a short moment. Well, that's interesting. Merrick says, why is English an international language? It dominates in politics, business, science, the internet. Every sixth person in the world speaks English. It means almost 1 billion people know English. Well, there's a good reason to learn it. It's a very convenient language, for sure. Very convenient. When you know English, you probably have the chance to talk to, probably at least the most variety of people, right? You can travel all over the world and find people who speak English. I think you know that. That's why you're learning it. That's a nice little quote. One day is the commentator's profile. To get something you never had, you have to do something you never did. Nice. That's a nice one. So to get something you never had, to get something new, you have to do something you never did. You have to do something new, right? It's kind of the positive side of that quote about insanity. If you do the same thing and expect a different result, then you're crazy, right? Well, the positive way to say that is if you want something different in your life, something new, then you have to change your behavior. You have to change your actions. Manuel, I've got another question. My little niece goes to kindergarten. She can't concentrate on certain subjects. Some teachers labeled her as ignorant and with ADHD. Why is that? Because the teachers suck and they're evil. It's not your child, unfortunately. I would tell your niece, I guess maybe it's your brother or sister, take her out of school. Take her out of that fucking school. Okay? Because next what they want to do is give her some kind of horrible drugs or just label her at this super young age. You know what? She's probably bored. She's probably bored and wants to just run around and play like a normal child. Ugh, this kind of thing makes me angry. It makes me angry because they're harming that child. Right? Because this kind of labeling and what they're doing is it can have a long-term harm. They already putting this label on this little child that there's something wrong with her. Oh, ADHD is bullshit, completely bullshit. It means attention deficit hyperactive disorder. In other words, a kid with a lot of energy, which is what most kids should have. So they're labeling normal behavior as something wrong, and then they often give drugs, or if they don't give drugs, they still treat the child like there's something wrong with them. The child starts to believe it. The child starts believing something's wrong with me. I'm not good enough. I can't concentrate. I have ADHD. I can't learn. And then they start to believe it, and it becomes true because they've been putting these negative beliefs into this little child. Fuck them. Okay. All right. N says, this month my topic is minimalism. Perfect. I've used about 7 podcasts of yours. I can't find more. Can you summarize the whole idea or some tips? It's just getting more from less. It's getting more quality from less amount. So and how do you do it? It's just a process. It's a step by step. Just take your time. You don't need to become like a monk in one day. Okay? That can be stressful. But you just, every week, let's say you ask, how can I simplify my life? It's just like in the book we're doing for money. Well, it's kind of the same idea in other areas of your life. How can I simplify my life? How can I just by asking the question and looking for answers in your life, you'll find little by little, you find things you can cut. You can find simpler things that you can enjoy. It's just go, little by little, little by little. Sam Poland recommending someone to interview. Drew Badger. He's a teacher of English, an American who lives in Japan. All right. I will add him to my list. Nice, Niraj says, I've been listening 1 year. I proved too much. Until now, I'm listening to you every day about 3 hours. Very nice. Good. Keep doing it. Good to see you, Sriracha, by the way. Good to see you. Aliman's asking about yesterday's topic where I was playing with the tongue twisters. Some people recommend tongue twisters for improving English fluency. Is it really beneficial? Not exactly, no. If you have a problem with one sound, if there's one sound that is causing problems for you, it can be helpful maybe it doesn't have to be it can just be a paragraph or a page that uses that sound a lot. And you get an audio and you listen to it many times, and then you try to shadow it and you try to say it yourself, and just to train yourself with that sound. That can be somewhat useful, but other than that, it's not necessary. If you're not having a lot of problems, then you don't have to worry about it. Like, I can't do them. You saw that the Sally sells seashells by the seashore. That one's hard for me. But I can pronounce sh, no problem, right? It's the combining the s and the sh sound, next to each other constantly, and then trying to say it really fast. That's hard, but we don't do that in normal conversation. I never have problems with that sound in normal English. So, I don't really. So why would I do the tongue twister? There's no need. And Manuel's following up. Is it possible I could teach my niece myself? Absolutely. Homeschool. Emmanuel. Yes, you could. Reading, writing, and arithmetic. Reading, writing, basic math. First of all, at kindergarten level, just read books to her. That's all. In her language. You don't need to do English, right? Just, I'm guessing Spanish. So if Spanish is your native language, just read children's books to her, with her, in Spanish. Play with her, you can count stuff, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and A, B, C, D. That's all you need in kindergarten. I mean, they're only 5 years old. I mean, just play with them and explore the world. Just get outside and look at plants and look at bugs and play games and run around and just let her explore the world and see things and play with things that are, in the real world, that are natural. And maybe in at home, she can build things with little blocks, and you read books together sometimes, different story books. That's all you got to do. That's it. Kindergarten. Easy. I mean, like, how can you be ADHD? That's kindergarten. How is it possible to be ADHD doing that? Right? So you're reading a book together, and in the middle of the book she gets bored, which means she's bored with the book or whatever. So what's the big deal? Just close the book and do something else. There's not a mental problem. It's just she wants to do something else. This is what kids do. They jump around. They constantly, their attention span's short. They're so excited. They want to explore everything at the same time. There's nothing wrong. Yeah. She sells seashells near the seashore. That's as fast as I can say it. I think we're about done. Yeah, well, like Jose Carlos says, I have a PhD in sociology. The most I learned about sociology were after that as independent learning. Well, exactly. Same for me. I think most people will say this. All right, I think we are finished. Let me just take a look if there's anything else. Any other interesting things real quickly? Well, Cleefley, I'm guessing your kindergarten is much more positive. You can do things differently. All right. Okay, we'll go with this last comment. How can we live without certificates easily? The shocking truth is school is an obligation. Self-learning might be started at a late stage in our ages. You don't need to. You can homeschool with your kids. And, as an adult, if you don't want to deal with certificates and degrees, then you'll become an entrepreneur. That's how you do it. Yeah, as long as if you're trying to get jobs from big companies, then you have to follow their requirements. And they use degrees as a way to limit the number of people who apply for jobs. But if you're a freelancer, an entrepreneur, business owner of some kind, you don't need any of that. You don't need a college degree. You don't even need a high school diploma. You don't need certificates. None of that. You just have to be good. You have to be that's the difference. As an entrepreneur or a freelancer, you have to be good at what you do. You have to have real skill. You can't just have a piece of paper. You have to really be able to do what you say. You have to be skilled and do a good job. And that's how you succeed. But see, I like that. I think most of you like that. That's real skill. That's real ability. That's real merit, we say. Right? Not just some piece of paper that's pretty meaningless. So if you really hate this whole idea, if you don't want to go to college, if you don't want to get another certificate or degree, then think about becoming a freelancer, an entrepreneur, a business owner, an independent person in your area of work, something like that, where you're independent from the system more, and then you can just focus on being good at what you do, not on getting some paper, some grade, something like that. All right. Well, we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday, so back with another show tomorrow. Until then, lots of love to you. And remember, commit, don't quit. You know the meaning of the word now. Commit, don't quit. To my VIP program at effortlessenglishclub.com. Commit at effortlessenglishclub.com.